Since Valorant's launch in 2020, it has witnessed numerous metas of overpowered agents, weapons, and strategies that generated significant controversy within the game's community. These concerns escalated to such an extent that Riot was compelled to intervene with emergency nerfs. However, as we'll see, these metas were so strong that some nerfs took multiple tries to get right and actually caused the game to change. Some of these metas defined competitive play for months, while others completely warped rank play to the point where they felt unplayable. So today, we're taking a deep dive into the most game-breaking metas, their impact on Valorant, and how the developers eventually fixed them. So let's dive into the entire history of Valorant's meta. We can't talk about Valorant's meta without talking about Raze. Back in April 2020, when Riot's shooter was still in beta, players could only play the game by watching Twitch streams with a chance to luck out with a beta code. Those who were lucky enough to play the beta version of the game immediately realized that Raze was an absolute terror. Her kit was overloaded with damage, and she was one of the most oppressive agents the game had ever seen. What made her an absolute unit was her huge explosive damage. Her grenades are already the strongest part of her kit. Now imagine that she could throw two of them back to back. This meant that she could completely clear out areas with little counterplay. Her boombot was also extremely dangerous, costing only 200 credits while dealing up to 125 damage, enough to kill enemies in pistol rounds or any enemy with light armor. The ability to deploy an autonomous tracking explosive that instantly killed whatever was in its path was extremely broken. Raze's opponents had limited means of escaping the boombot unscathed. Additionally, her blast packs were much more effective than they are today. They were cheaper, dealt more damage, and had double the explosion radius. If you think Raze players are annoying now with their shotgun spams while jumping around the entire map, it's a good thing you weren't there to have been under Raze's crosshairs. Not only did the blast pack allow Raze to soar through the skies, but they also launched enemies in different directions while dealing 75 damage. Finally, her Showstopper ultimate costs only 6 points and equipped significantly faster, allowing her to secure easy multi-kills. The raw explosive damage of this ability made it one of the most dangerous ultimates in the game at the time. Eventually, in August 2020, Riot released patch 1.05 to put an end to Raze's reign. The most significant change required her to get 2 kills to refresh her grenades, reducing her ability to spam them. Her ult charge was also increased from 6 to 7, and it took a lot longer to equip and deploy. Over time, multiple tweaks were made to tone down her explosive power. Despite these changes, she remained a strong pick in competitive play. Her dominance in ranked lobbies made her one of the first agents Riot had to nerf right after the game's release in June 2020. Much like Raze, Jett soon took the throne for being the most overpowered duelist in the game, all because of her kit. Jett has always been a fan favorite, but early in Valorant, she was absolutely busted. Her cloudburst smokes lasted 7 seconds instead of the current 4.5, allowing her to control space far more effectively. She became a mini Omen, except her smokes were much faster to deploy. This allowed players to use these smokes to create extended cover, making aggressive plays much safer. Additionally, she had 3 cloudburst smokes instead of the 2 she has today, giving her even more tools to play aggressively. Her ultimate, Bladestorm, was especially ridiculous because right-click kills would instantly refresh her knives. This meant that skilled players could chain together multiple eliminations without any real limitations, allowing her to maintain a constant aggressive playstyle. On top of that, her Tailwind dash was always available without needing prior activation, meaning she could escape fights instantly. This gave her an unprecedented level of survivability, making her much harder to pin down. Combining this quicker tailwind with 2 updrafts soon became the default way to navigate through maps as Jett. She would fly around the whole arena, spamming her ultimate and quickly getting kills. Adding this to how broken the Bucky was back then, Jett was a constant threat. These advantages allowed Jett to dominate competitive and professional tournaments. Her peak occurred at the VCT Masters Reykjavik in May 2021, where her pick rate was over 80%. The infamous Korean Jett playstyle also took birth around this time, where players aggressively used updraft and tailwind to create unparalleled movement, securing kills. Riot finally nerfed her in September 2020 in patch 1.06 by removing the right-click reset from Bladestorm. Further nerfs followed in patch 2.1, reducing Cloudburst's smoke duration from 7 seconds to 4.5. While Jett remains a strong agent, she no longer possesses the overpowered abilities that once made her the most dominant duelist in the game. With movement agents like Jett and Raze being the strongest and most popular at the beginning of Valorant, it was no surprise that the Bucky was as strong as it was. For a time, the Bucky was one of the best weapons in the game. Before its nerfs, its right-click fire mode allowed players to land one-shot kills from absurd distances, making it a pseudo-sniper rifle. This made it the most cost-effective weapon for force buy rounds, as players could dominate engagements even at medium range. Shotguns in general had virtually no spread while mid-air. This made Razes dashing through the sky using their blast packs at breakneck speed a force to be reckoned with. Jetts also abused this mechanic by using updraft and floating down slowly to secure easy one-taps while airborne. The Bucky's combination of a low-cost and high-damage output created one of the most frustrating metas for all Valorant players. Eventually, Riot addressed this issue in patch 2.06 by heavily nerfing the Bucky's right-click. This removed its long-range one-shot potential, making it a close-quarters weapon once again. The Bucky meta was particularly frustrating for ranked players, as it was frequently used in low and mid-tier lobbies, where players relied on it to secure cheap kills. Although it never had a major impact on professional play, it remains one of Valorant's most infamous weapon metas. It may sound surprising now, but the Frenzy was once a juggernaut in Valorant, particularly in pistol rounds. Costing only 400 credits, it allowed players to buy both a Frenzy and light armor, giving them a significant advantage over opponents using either classics or ghosts. The weapon's insane fire rate, combined with early Valorant's more forgiving movement mechanics, led to rampant running and gunning strategies. Players could strafe while firing without significant accuracy penalties, making it nearly impossible to counter Frenzy users in close-range fights. Riot eventually addressed this in patch 2.03 in March 2021 by increasing the price to 500 credits and reducing its accuracy when moving. Additionally, in patch 3.0, the walking inaccuracy had been nerfed, increasing from 0.25 to 0.8, while the running inaccuracy had also been nerfed, rising from 1 to 2. These changes effectively ended the Frenzy meta, but for months it was the most dominant pistol round strategy in the game. Astra's release on March 2, 2021 in patch 2.04 introduced a completely new playstyle to Valorant, redefining the role of controllers. Unlike Brimstone, Omen or Viper, Astra could deploy her utility from anywhere on the map using astral form, allowing her to control multiple areas simultaneously. This unparalleled global influence made her an essential pick in professional play, where coordination maximized her oppressive capabilities. Her ability to dictate engagements without direct involvement made her the most powerful controller in the game, shaping the meta for months. Her gravity well forced enemies into predictable positions, making them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. This ability was particularly devastating in post-plant scenarios, where she could pull defenders off the spike, securing rounds with minimal effort. Nova Pulse, an instant concussion explosion, allowed her to disrupt enemy pushes and clear contested angles without warning. Astra's nebula smokes had no travel time and could be placed anywhere, providing instant and flexible cover. This allowed Astra to control engagements with unmatched precision. Her ultimate, Cosmic Divide, created an impenetrable wall that blocked bullets and muffled sound, making site executions and post-plants nearly impossible to counter. After months of defining the meta, Riot introduced the first round of nerfs in patch 3.06, increasing the cooldowns of her Gravity Well and Nova Pulse while forcing her stars to charge before activation. Despite these adjustments, Astra remained the strongest controller in professional play. In patch 4.04 on March 1, 2022, Riot delivered one of the harshest nerfs in Valorant history. The cooldowns of Gravity Well and Nova Pulse were increased to 45 seconds. Nebula's cooldown was doubled, her star count was reduced from 5 to 4, and stars no longer functioned under certain structures. These changes made her slow and clunky, removing her from the meta. To really hit home about how big of a deal Astra was, between her introduction in March 2021 and her eventual nerf in March 2022, Astra saw significant usage in professional Valorant tournaments. Her pick rate peaked in mid-2021, reaching 43.4% in Southeast Asia and 33.9% in Europe during VCT Stage 2 challenges. Once the most powerful controller in the game, Astra became one of the least picked agents, marking one of the most dramatic falls in Valorant history. We cannot talk about dramatic falls in Valorant without talking about Chamber. Chamber was one of the most dominant agents ever introduced into Valorant. When he was first introduced, his kit didn't immediately seem overpowered. A sentinel whose abilities were just guns? It didn't sound too threatening, but once players started using him, it became clear. This was the most broken agent Valorant had ever seen. His rendezvous teleport allowed him to take aggressive off angles with zero risk, and with an initial range of 35 meters, he could hold an operator angle, take a shot, and instantly teleport to safety. This single ability turned him into a better duelist than actual duelists. But that wasn't even the worst part. Chamber's headhunter ability acted like a pocket guardian, making him lethal even in eco rounds. And then there was Tour de Force, his ultimate, which wasn't just an operator, it was better than an operator. It fired faster, had a higher equip speed, and even created a slow field on kill, punishing enemies even further. Combine all of this with his trademark traps, originally 2 per round, and you had an agent who could lock down sites while simultaneously playing as an entry fragger. At his peak, Chamber completely broke Valorant's meta. During VCT Masters Copenhagen in July 2022, his pick rate was a ridiculous 77%. Pro teams had no choice, pick Chamber or lose. But Riot let him run wild for too long. When patch 5.12 dropped in December 2022, it butchered his kit. His teleport range was nerfed, his ultimate was slowed, his traps were weakened, and his gunplay was no longer reliable. Chamber's pick rate collapsed from 77% to just 14.2%, and he was effectively deleted from the meta. In early 2023, the Stinger unexpectedly became the most dominant force-buy weapon. With buffs that improved its accuracy and reduced its recoil randomness, it became a must-buy, even over rifles in certain situations. Many professional teams began incorporating Stinger force buys into their strategies, completely shifting the weapon economy. Riot addressed this by increasing the Stinger's price and decreasing its fire rate in patch 6.11 in May 2023, restoring balance to the game. The Stinger meta was short-lived, but it left a lasting impression on players' approach to force buy rounds. With that, we have reached the modern age, where Neon has reigned supreme since her buffs in June 2024. Neon has been one of the most oppressive duelists in Valorant, frustrating players across all ranks and tournaments. Her high gear ability allows her to sprint across the map at unmatched speeds, and her slide mechanic retains 100% accuracy of her shots, making her movement unpredictable and difficult to counter. She is single-handedly the reason why the Bucky came back in common play after years of irrelevancy. Neon's biggest strength lies in her ability to quickly close distances and secure kills before opponents can react. Her fast lane ability provides instant cover, allowing her to isolate duels or escape tricky situations. Meanwhile, her overdrive ultimate giving her a high damage laser that benefits from her speed, making her even harder to hit. Professional players and content creators have pointed out how unbalanced Neon has become. At Paris Games Week, Neon mains like Joe suggested that a nerf to her high gear recharge rate would help balance her out. While Riot has yet to implement major changes, many players feel that she needs adjustments to bring her in line with the other duelists. Neon has received multiple balance adjustments in an attempt to rein in her power. In patch 9.10 on November 19, 2024, Riot nerfed concuss abilities to slow dashes by 50%, directly affecting her ability to escape from crowd control effects. Shortly after, patch 9.11 dropped on December 10, 2024, which introduced a more substantial set of nerfs. Her ultimate duration was reduced from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, making overdrive much less effective in prolonged fights. Additionally, her high gear slides were reduced from 2 to 1, and her slide accuracy was adjusted from full accuracy to crouch walking accuracy. Finally, overdrive's ultimate point cost was increased from 7 to 8, making it less frequently available. These changes were designed to limit Neon's ability to slide in and out of fights with perfect accuracy, while also forcing players to be more deliberate in their usage of overdrive. The combination of these nerfs marks a clear effort by Riot to balance her ability and combat effectiveness in casual, ranked, and professional play. While Neon has been nerfed and is no longer an oppressive force in the meta, we may be seeing the rise of yet another broken agent off launch. Tejo is the newest agent added to Valorant on January 8th of this year, and he's already making strides in casual and competitive play. All of his abilities are like an accumulation of the other best abilities in the game. His stealth drone is unlike anything in Valorant, staying invisible at long range while scouting for enemies. When activated, it suppresses and reveals targets, instantly shifting the balance of any fight. Unlike Sova's drone, this one doesn't just mark enemies, it denies them abilities, shutting down their options. Then there's Special Delivery, a sticky grenade that latches onto surfaces and concusses anyone caught in its blast. It can be thrown directly or bounced off walls, allowing for creative setups to clear angles before pushing in. But guided salvo is where things get dangerous. Using an AR targeting system, Tejo designates up to 2 locations, and missiles autonomously hunt down and detonate on those targets, forcing enemies out of cover. And finally, Armageddon, his game-changing ultimate. Tejo sets up 2 points on the map, sending a devastating wave of explosions across the battlefield. If enemies don't move, they're gone. Tejo isn't just about support, he's here to control the game. He might become a force to be reckoned with in the coming months of Valorant, and we're all here for it. Valorant's meta has been a never-ending cycle of chaos, dominance, and destruction. Raze terrorized lobbies in the beta, Jet rewrote how duelists played the game, and Astra completely reshaped pro play. The Bucky and the Frenzy turned Valorant into an FPS Wild West, while Chamber broke the game to the point where he was the only viable Sentinel. Then came Neon, sliding and shotgunning her way to infamy, leaving a trail of frustration across ranked lobbies. But here's the thing, we never really escape the meta. Every time one problem is fixed, another one arises. Patch after patch, Riot has tried to maintain balance, but somehow, something always finds a way to break the game again. Now we have Tejo, a brand new agent who already looks like he's on the verge of becoming the next big problem. His invisible drone, missile targeting system, and explosive ultimate feels less like a Valorant agent and more like something straight out of an action movie. So, what's next? Is Tejo the next Chamber? Will Riot nerf him into the ground in a few months? Or is there another agent or weapon just waiting to be broken? One thing's for sure, Valorant's meta is never truly balanced, and that's what keeps it interesting.